Welcome into 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. That's Adam Luckett, and we are just days away from the opening of the college football transfer portal, and we're here to preview it all. And we got a lot to get to after taking a brief little, not siesta. Wait. I'm ruffling my Spanish, Luckett. I'm not down in the Sunshine State like you. Well, what's a break in Spanish? Come on, you know this.
Go to the chat. Tell us. I'm having a brain fart. I don't know.
I know. I should know it too, but I'm not well versed in my Spanish as of late. It's taken a while.
Holiday hiatus.
There we go. Hiatus. Hiatus is not Spanish. It's an English word, and
no, it is not. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, we're not used to talking. All right. I've just been yelling at my kids. We're on day 7 of no school at the Roush house, and you know how it is. Like it when the kids are home all the time, it rots your brain a little bit. So we're getting the fog off before the transfer portal kicks off. I want to apologize for being a little bit late. We did not know that you could go live at the same time as another show. So Phoenix was going a little long. We said, screw it, let's try the live button, and it worked. So we're rocking, we're rolling. Appreciate you joining us today, and we appreciate Monticello Bank, they're back. They're going to be back for 2026, presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. I want to say this is year 5. So shout out to Monticello Bank for teaming up with 11 Personnel for so long. They've been teaming up with the Commonwealth since 1895. That's a very, very long time. Like soon to be 131 years of serving the great Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's where people matter. Whatever your banking needs are, they got you covered. There's a location near you, and they're always located online at nbcbank.com. We're big fans of Monticello Bank. You'll be fans of theirs too when you bank local with Monticello Bank. It's where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender, and proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. All right, Luckett. Before we start, I just would like to say shout out to I'm not going to count the NFL Sunday, but the bowl season has been kind to me. And I also had an undefeated NFL Sunday. So really what I'm here to say is that you should just be grateful that we're not picking games against each other, because I would be whooping your ass right now.
So you bet Browns money line?
I admittedly considered it, but I was like, I don't really want to bet against the Steelers right now, because Tomlin just can't win as a favorite. I don't know what it is about him. If he's an underdog, bet him. Take it to the bank. If he's a favorite, so Steelers, they're a damn mess. What is it with your Bengals, too, deciding to start to play football now? I mean, my God, they are taking out all of their frustrations now that they're officially out of playoff contention.
Yeah, it turns out when 9, 5, and 1 are on the field at the same time, they're pretty good, but they just can't get on the field at the same time. So
it's crazy.
Some of the stats they have, it's like, they're averaging 38 points per game, but they've only played 27% of the games since 22 or something. But yeah,
that's fun.
Schedule's helped. Like, they've played some bad teams here, but they are what I thought they'd be on offense this year, which is an absolute wagon when everybody's healthy.
When everybody's healthy. And that's the big key, too, when handicapping these bowl games. I will admit, because I did just turn on the ABC broadcast right as the Pinstripe Bowl was beginning, and I saw the snow coming down, and I was just like, just let me get the under in as quickly as I can. I was just like, how fast can I get it in before kickoff? That was just pure, like, it's a snow football game in Yankee Stadium between two terrible offenses. Let's just get that in. We didn't have to sweat it. We might have to sweat some games here in the next couple days. They're getting a lot better. Saturday was like the fun silliness. We're about to get to the good ones. Maybe we'll touch on those towards the end. But you're here to hear about the transfer portal madness. And also, we gotta start though with what's going on with Will Stein's staff. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is that Will Stein he doesn't like the term analyst. The new administration, they're hiring a lot of coaches, and they want it to be clear that these guys are coaches. They may not be among the 10 recruiters who can leave campus and do recruiting elsewhere, but they're going to hire an army of assistants that will essentially serve as assistant position coaches, which is it's a different model than the previous regime where there was a lot of people at the top of the food chain who were getting paid big bucks. We don't know the details on the new contracts yet, but it feels like things are going to be divvied out so where you can have a lot more support staff than normal. And I'm anticipating assistant position coaches for pretty much every position.
I think right now you have to have the working assumption that the money is pretty similar to whatever the pool was last year, Mr. Grinch. So I think when you have that, the money's just getting spread out more. Use it like the Bengals, for example. The Bengals have one of the more it's just top heavy, the roster, how they like when they're paying Burrow, when they're paying Chase, when they're paying Higgins, when they're paying Hendrickson, all this money.
Mm-hmm.
Where for Kentucky, I think this year or last year, you're paying Brad White almost $2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Vince, who was in there, who was counted amongst that before he left, was making like what 1.4, 1.5,
something like that. Yeah.
Bush Hamden was making 1.3.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Stoops was making like $800,000. Eric Wolford was making $900,000. Where I don't know if I'd be interested to see like what coaches are like $800,000 or higher. How many are on there? I think both coordinators, obviously, but after that,
it's probably thin.
Yeah, so they're spreading out the funds more, and just college football in general. I think you're seeing more NFL style practices implemented. Whether it be like the popular one is the general manager and the scouting apparatus. But now what we're seeing is, you can have other guys coach here. And if you're willing to invest money in it, that frees up your coordinators or your position coaches to do certain things. So like if Vince was still here, when Vince was here, they had CJ coached the tight ends, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of the running bit.
Right.
CJ Conrad for a little bit, and Vince did recruiting stuff. And so it just takes it just spreads out, I think, responsibilities. Now, that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, I think is a like kind of rebuttal you can have to that. So you've got to have good leadership, I think, at the top to kind of streamline that. But it's definitely the Oregon blueprint, I think you see from Will Stein to this point.
And I think the best example of that just early on, Cutter Leftwich will be the offensive line coach, but is it Warheim?
I haven't looked up how to pronounce it, but I think
Warheim sounds more like an offensive line coach, right? Like he's isn't I imagine the name Warheim in one of those dystopian movies where he's got like a pig's head on as his mask and he's leading the troops into battle. But so far, when you're seeing a lot of these early recruiting announcements, hey, got an offer from Kentucky, he's getting tagged in a lot of those. And the other part of it too, Stein's approach in many of his hires is taking kind of up and coming guys, right? I mean, there are some experienced guys like we mentioned before in Jay Bateman, but Leftwich is 28, 29, something like that. He's very young. He was playing college football in 2019, so that would put him, somewhere in that range. But Warheim
he graduated high school a decade after I did, and I'm 36 years old. So
okay, yeah,
he's got to be 26 or 27.
Yeah, so he's younger. He's not going to have as many recruiting connections, even though he's obviously been doing it. But Warheim has worked the DMV area for a while. I want to say he is in his late 40s. Was recently the offensive line coach at Coastal. So you're able to see some sort of balance there. And I think the other part too is that for the longest time, there were restrictions on these analysts. It was first quality control. Then they just dropped the quality control and just tagged them as analysts. Now these guys, they're recruiting, right? They're just doing it through their phone. And that's where 80% of the recruiting is done anyway. That and being around for visits on campus.
Yeah. Right. Again, I think spreading the wealth and using a army, for lack of a better term. I think in the chat they're talking about how Billy Napier did it. He did, and it did not go well. But all this stuff comes from Saban. Kirby Smart worked for Saban. Dan Lanning worked for Kirby Smart. Will Stein worked for Dan Lanning. right? And Billy Napier worked for Saban. So all of it originates there. And so Kentucky's building a bigger kind of organization, and they're going to have a bigger organizational flow chart. So to me, what's most important in this, and why like Napier ultimately failed, was they had all these people, but it wasn't necessarily, I don't think, streamlined or efficient how they were operating.
Well, you had all those people, and he was still calling the plays.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, that's fine. I don't really care about that, but it's just like, are you efficiently using your resources? Because at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. And so we'll see how this works. I'm more interested on the defensive side, because at the end of the day, Nick, like part of the reason you hire Will Stein is because what he's done on offense. I think everyone should enter this having a lot of faith that the offense will get fixed and the offense will be a strength of this organization. It might be what determines the ceiling, but what's going to determine the floor is just what happens defensively. And so you've got a thing with Jay Bateman where he said, I want I'm coming because, full autonomy was something that attracted me to this job. And he's getting to hire, I think, a lot of guys he has working relationships with.
A lot of West Point guys. Yeah,
not just that, but like Alan Brown, who was the cornerbacks coach at Cal, was a QC at Florida while he was at Florida. These assistant secondary coaches work with him at A&M. The Chad Wilt worked with him at Ball State and Army, not just Army. Who else am I missing? There's another one.
Josh Christian Young
worked with him at Army. So there's a lot of, he's getting the work. You can tell, which was expected, that Stein is saying,
this is yours.
Here you go, Jay. Go do what you got to do to fix it. And I'm going to be, Stein says, we haven't really heard him talk a lot. All we have to base this off of is the introductory press conference. But he's still, even though he said, I want to be a head coach and yada, 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 but he's still going to be very focused on the offensive side, like any coach is, I think, with this background. And it's why that other hire is so important. And so he's turning it over to Bateman, but he's giving him resources, I think, to spend. And you're seeing him, I think, bring in a lot of guys and even Chad Wilt's another one who they just hired. A lot of guys he has experience with, and we'll see how that works out for him.
A few other quick housekeeping measures since the last time we were on. Anmore Stewart did get officially retained, so that is one that it does not appear that Bateman did make. At least that was sort of a, hey, we got this guy who's pretty good already on there. He's a former UK guy. Let's keep him. But that's kind of the one outlier. And probably Tony Washington Jr., the edge coach, seems to fit that mold as well. I'd also like to say
he worked at Oregon, but yeah,
he's outside of the Bateman kind of tree.
Yes.
And I guess that guy's going to be a recruiter, but I don't know. It's hard to tell with a lot of these, you know what I mean? Because only so many have been announced, and now they're all getting determined as coaches. But the one thing I think that's key for the defense, and we talked about it on KSR Plus, which right now 50% off an annual subscription transfer portal special. I guess that's going to be going through the week, so make sure you're in on there. So we that's where we'll be letting you know, like, hey, this is a guy you should watch. Keep an eye on. Like, Dougie's probably going to be looking after him. But we'll let you know, hey, things are looking good on the Ty Bryant front. And we got it confirmed, I want to say on Friday, that Bryant is in fact coming back. And I just wanted to take a moment, to just say that as important as the tangible skills are in the sport, I think in this transition, the intangibles can be just as valuable. And in Ty's case, this is a guy who grew up here. His dad played here. He's seen the good. He's seen the bad. He's a vocal, charismatic leader that can be your sort of, hey, we got the all-SEC guy back, and he's going to make sure that everybody buys into the message. Because we don't know exactly how many holdovers there will be. There will be some, And you need to make sure that everybody is, pulling on that same rope, that there isn't some sort of old guys, new guys. I think getting Ty Bryant back is just huge from a togetherness, continuity, however you want to phrase it standpoint. He can be a valuable leader for this defense and also a proven playmaker, right? I mean, you got a guy who really, I think, showed a lot of growth last year on the field, who didn't play so rigid, who was willing to make plays, and he's got a kind of an earn it year coming up. And I know there was some smoke about him going to Florida, so I thought that was just a nice, solid start to the ball rolling on finding out that, okay, this guy's returning. Let's keep this good feelings going.
Yeah, I think to this point, Kentucky, they haven't lost a starting player.
Yeah.
Like Steven Souls is the best player they've lost, and he was very much a package player.
Yes, very niche.
Mm-hmm. So they haven't lost anyone that was expected to play, even like I would say big snaps, even semi-big. I guess you could say Souls. Other than Souls, like even Nasir Addison, there'll be some that package that transfer. Oh, he started games for Kentucky, or was a starter for Kentucky last year.
Yeah,
he wasn't really like he was a starter because there was a bunch
everybody
of
got hurt. Yeah,
like I've been surprised that there hasn't been more attrition from guys who were starters, because you go and look at Auburn, you go
29 players,
Florida,
yep.
You go and look at some of these other places that have lost head coaches or have brought in new head coaches. They're losing a lot of guys, and that hasn't really been the case here to this point. So that has been, it's caught my attention, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out here over the next few days, and then where they're at then. But they had to spend money somewhere, and so I think retention was keeping the good players you have, because bare minimum they're going to need a handful, probably more than a handful of starters. So you don't want to be shopping for. You don't want a situation like they had last year, where they were shopping for so many starters. And I guess I should throw Jalen Farmer. That was the big one. That was the one that stings the most, but he lays for the draft, not to go play for someone else.
Right. Well, you know what, look it. We've got people asking about, so we might as well get into it. But I got to pay the bills real quick and tell you about our good friends at Game Time. It's a new year. Get you some tickets to go see a new band you haven't seen before. Maybe go get you some tickets to Rupp Arena. Wherever you need to get tickets, you need to buy them with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. The best part about Game Time is it's no frills, no surprises, all-inclusive ticket prices. You're not going to get a ticket and then be tagged with $30 in fees at checkout. They got them all. They got the best prices. And when you use promo code ON3, ON3, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. That's right, $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. Terms apply. Just use promo code ON3 when you buy tickets at Game Time on the Game Time app or at gametime.co to get tickets to your favorite comedy shows, concerts, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter if it's 8 months in advance like the World Cup or if it's 6 hours in advance. Game Time will have you covered. Just use that code ON3 and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. All right, Luckett. The people, they were very fired up. They were very fired up because you got the big board ready. The spreadsheet. We know we've heard about this spreadsheet for a very long time, and we finally got to see it come to life on KSR Plus. And so we're just going to go through each position, kind of where things stand with them as far as exits and as far as potential targets. And we'll start with quarterbacks, because since we last talked almost 2 weeks ago, there still has been no announcement from Cutter Boley. I answered this question on the board, but people are – what do you think? Like, are you worried that Boley hasn't made an announcement?
It would be – I think everyone can officially move on once that happens, but it hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. All I can say is, Nick, there's a bunch of QBs in the portal, and I've heard nothing about Kentucky. making a push. So
my response would be he is an agent. The agent is doing their job. So you kind of, you just let the process play out. And, oh, man, I'm feeling a sneeze coming along. So
basically, but to the quarterback room, they have essentially, Nick, they have 3 scholarship players.
yes.
And one with Ponatoski, you don't know. Like, he could go play baseball.
And even if he doesn't, he's not going to be here in the spring. That's a true freshman arriving in June.
So do they want to try to bring in 2 quarterbacks as insurance for that in case that happens? Be very interested to see how they play that and what players they target. There was a junior college name that popped up here recently that would make a lot of sense. When you're going through these portal names, I know it's going to upset people that maybe I didn't have Josh Hoover or Dylan Raiola or insert your fighter.
Yeah.
On the big board, but I just don't know if they're going to be in the market specifically to pay one of those top guys. And yet do they even, want a top guy? Do they want like mid-tier, mid-lower tier? Like, what are they even looking for? It's hard to say. A name I have on there was AJ Swan played for Joe Sloan at LSU.
Yep.
Started games at Vanderbilt, started games at App State. It didn't necessarily go great at either spot, but he has starter level experience. Would he be interested in coming back to the SEC and being a backup after being a starter at App State didn't go great? So, like, that one could make some sense. But getting a read on the quarterback situation is difficult because we believe they're committed to Boley. But after that, like, what's the plan going to be to kind of build that room? That's going to be one of the more, I think, interesting storylines to follow here over these next few weeks.
Yeah. And it will be kind of nice, though, if not all of the oxygen is taken up by quarterback, right? That we don't have a full portal where it's trying to convince ourselves of somebody or, you know what I mean? Like, it does seem like that it's turning to a direction where it's just getting another body in the room.
I do feel like it's interesting how the kind of vibe around Boley has changed in the fan base. Before, it was people mad at Mark Stoops for not playing Cutter, for playing Calzada over Cutter, and it was people being mad about lack of QB development. And now all those concerns have gone away because Mark Stoops isn't here. Now I think a lot of people have flipped and want the portal quarterback. They want someone to do what Kentucky has done here lately. But with Cutter, I think you also have to look at it like Kentucky really can't afford to, I think, pay the top line because they've got to spread the wealth again. Most importantly, they've got to rebuild an offensive line again. And if that's a need for Kentucky entering every market, they're not going to be able to pay to get and you can't risk it. Not in this conference. You can in other conferences, but you can't risk it in this conference. You've got to invest in that position, and that's kind of where Kentucky's at. And I still expect Cutter Boley to be the starting quarterback. We'll see where these negotiations go. But if you're from Kentucky side, Nick, I think they're probably going to want an answer here soon. And from Cutter side too, I think they need to decide.
Yeah, or else they'll be stuck behind the 8 ball in the transfer portal madness. Let's move on to running backs, where this is a position where you're going to need some people because you don't have very many, right? I would expect Jason Patterson to return, but outside of that, you don't really know. You signed one high school running back, and it's just a lot of uncertainty there. The part that I think will differ, this is me just reading between the lines like it. Stoops he likes spending portal money on backs, except for Ahmad Hardy last year. Like, dude, why didn't you just get him? That still irritated me. But Kentucky, they typically were always in the mix at the top of the transfer portal market for one of the big name backs out there. I don't think that's going to be the case based on what happened at Oregon last year. That kid from Tulane, I want to say Makai Smith was his name. He was considered one of the top dogs. He was Mekhi Hughes. Yeah, he was a top tier guy who essentially quit on Oregon after 4 games. Redshirted, is hitting the portal again. So after getting burned by one of those top guys, I would not suspect Stein to go after one of the big names like Cam Cook at Jacksonville State, who had, almost 2,000 yards rushing last year. He was absolutely on fire. But they need to get guys. There's no doubt about it. It's just where do they go looking, and are you willing to spend a lot when you know you've also got to fill holes elsewhere?
Yeah, I think just looking at Stein's 4-year background, they've never really had kind of a true workhorse. They've leaned heavy, like when Jordan James was there last year on the Oregon team that went undefeated and lost to Ohio State. He had 233 carries. The next closest was 118. But for the most part, they spread the wealth. And so I think you can expect something similar. Nick, Kentucky's room right now, 5 scholarship running backs, and that's counting Jamarian Wilcox. I would not expect Jamarian Wilcox to be on this football team in 2026. So you're down to 4. Tavani Mizell's sitting there. We really haven't seen him. He's entering year 3.
He's injury prone.
I've had some people say we've seen on the board running back is not a need. I would stress it is a need. Like, it's a position they have to address. Just full stop. If you're ranking SEC running back rooms right now, Kentucky is near the bottom.
Yep.
They've got to invest in this. The good thing about this is a deep running back market. It is deep. There are a lot of really good tailbacks available. So you're going to be able to get some good guys, and you're not necessarily going to be able to break the bank. Like, to your point, Nick, I thought for how Kentucky wanted to play football under Mark Stoops, it makes sense to pay top dollar for a tailback.
Yeah.
In my opinion. We'll have to see how the Stein system goes. But I would say running backs are worth more in college football than they kind of are in the NFL, where they can be more of a dime a dozen. But again, we have the big board up. Cam Cook led college football in rushing yards. He had over 100 missed tackles at Jacksonville State last year. He might not be a top 3 or 4 back on some people's board in this portal. Marquise Davis is out there, Nick. You know who was a running back at Missouri and barely played last year? Kewan Lacey, who just led the SEC and just about everything. I think touchdowns, and it's been awesome. So he's available. Wayne Knight is available, who just ran for 1,300 yards at James Madison. Hollywood Smothers at NC State was one of the best explosive playbacks. Trey Wisner from Texas had a 1,000-yard season on the Texas team last year that went to the semifinals. Jaheim White at West Virginia was one of the best explosive playbacks at over 21% explosive run rate in the Big 12, played at West Virginia. He's had a good career. And there's more backs. Like, there's even more opening. Like Evan Pryor, who played at Cincinnati, I think is a good outside zone tailback, explosive, who I think could kind of fit with Kentucky if they were going to go that angle. There are a lot of good tailbacks out there. Kentucky's going to be able to find some help. So this is a position where Kentucky, like, you don't necessarily have to break the bank, but if they smartly kind of evaluate it and move quickly, I think they can get a good player or two to really beef up that room and really create a rotation, something they haven't really ever had. Outside a couple seasons.
No, you're exactly right. It'll be a different approach under Will Stein. The next position up, wide receiver. I think the good news, Kentucky had some freshmen who popped last year. So you feel like you have a solid core, which means that you should be able to go out and pay for one of those top guys to really give Boley another target. And I don't think there's any shortage of options out there. We learned, was that today that Cam Coleman is hitting the transfer portal?
That was yesterday. Yes.
Yesterday. I don't anticipate Kentucky to be on the Cam Coleman sweepstakes just because he's going to be in the oil money, right? Like, one of the big spenders is going to gobble him up. But that doesn't mean that Kentucky can't go
Cody Campbell going to give him some gold bars is what that sounds like.
Exactly. So, so what I have heard is that they're looking for they're looking for speed, right? They want somebody who can be a deep play threat, and I thought on the board there's a couple of guys that fit that mold. One of which has been connected to Kentucky. Pete Nako said that the Cats are in the mix for Malcolm Simmons. He's an Auburn transfer who went for more than 400 yards over each of the last 2 seasons. That's an intriguing name. I don't think DeAndre Moore will be. I don't know if Kentucky's going to be in that sort of category, but they could be. He's another interesting player too. And we also had a UTSA guy who announced he's entering the portal, McEwen, today, that I think should be one that people need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, just from like kind of the speed guys, like are over the top. Omarion Miller's a Louisiana native, Nick, former top 300 recruit, spent 3 years at Colorado, had kind of a breakthrough campaign this year as a junior, 45 receptions, 808 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns with a atrocious kind of quarterback situation they had out there.
That was bad.
But he was excellent as a vertical target, 11 receptions for 415 yards on 20-plus air yards. So he kind of fits like the vertical field stretcher that you'll be looking at. There's a lot of like really good small slot receivers. I'm not necessarily sure Kentucky will be in the market for that, but I definitely think they're looking for guys on the outside. Ja'Cory Thomas is another Louisiana native, played at Old Dominion this year, was a really good vertical receiver on a really good group of 6 offense last year. And then, you pointed out Simmons. Aiden Mizell had some issues staying healthy, but he was kind of a vertical field stretcher there at Florida. Nick Marsh is a popular name. Marquise Johnson is a Texas native, played at Missouri. The last 2 years didn't go well, but as a freshman, he had some really big moments as a vertical receiver, and I believe he was the guy who caught the pass from the punter against Kentucky.
Ooh, wow. That's a fun blast from the pass.
So he's a guy I think maybe a change of scenery might be able to do him well. He's a guy. Jace Brown is a vertical weapon, the Kansas State transfer. Like on gadget plays, he was explosive, reverses, jet sweeps, screens. He's a guy that I think would be a interesting fit and kind of would really fit that kind of feed the studs mantra. I'm not sure where they're at with him, but he's someone to keep an eye on. And then Terrell Anderson is another kind of outside receiver that I think can be a vertical weapon. He had a good year. He led NC State in receiving yards last year as a former top 100 recruit. So there's some options there. Receiver like running back. There's some depth to it. And so you can find some guys. Now, if you're pigeonholing yourself, we need to check a certain box, that's where I think, the market gets smaller. But just looking at it, a receiver position in totality, there's some options there.
There are options. I won't spend a ton of time on tight end, but Cats will probably get one just from a body standpoint. I think the good news is that we haven't learned about any departures. We've heard that Boyer and Rodriguez are likely locked in. If you can keep Michael Skinner, that gives you to 4. And
Elijah Brown, you have 4 scholarship tight ends. Henry Boyer, Elijah Brown, Willie Rodriguez, Mikel Skinner.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep them all in the fold, maybe you look for some gravy at the end of the process, but it's probably not a huge priority. So let's get to the biggest priority, and that is offensive line, without a doubt. And it's the second straight year we've come into this with offensive line being a major need. 5 starters they need to replace. I'll start by saying that shout out to Eric Wolford for getting it done, for making sure that Kentucky had plenty of options going into this year. But he might actually be giving Kentucky some options, because seemingly everybody in the LSU offensive line room is.
Well, no, it's just like a thing. Well, I appreciate you for doing this, but you got to throw the butt in. Like,
yeah.
That's what the Wolford conversation is almost like that. Like, you built it for a year, but like, there's a lot of work. Still to be done here with this offensive line, and they're going to have to get to work. And we've talked about high school recruiting. You see them being active, I think, right now, going after some guys. But in the short term, they've got to get a starting unit built for this year. And there's some options here. And there's some there's a lot of LSU options in general. And so, like, what's the interest level here? because there is that obviously that connection with Sloan coming from LSU.
Yeah. And obviously I think people are going to say, wow, worst run blocking unit, worst PFF. There's a lot of reasons to be like, well, they stunk last year. Why would they be good here? You have a different offensive line coach. And the point I made is like Nebraska's offense stunk with Wan'Dale Robinson, but that didn't mean that he was bad, right? And especially if you aren't taking it wholesale. Like Tyree Adams, for example, he's former 4-star who earns starting role as a redshirt sophomore. I didn't see the exact injury, but he starts 7 games, season-ending injury, right? Like he played in the big moments at left tackle. And if I was to tell you that you could get a starting left tackle from LSU, you're probably saying, hell yeah, sign me up. Because last year, the only starters that Kentucky could be in the market for were all, they got dudes from Conference USA and MAC. So,
and Tyree Adams, multiple years of eligibility.
Correct. With experience too, which usually you feel like you have to get one or the other, right? Like it's like a 1 year or with a guy who's played a lot, or it's a guy who is a good-looking prospect but doesn't have any experience and a lot of eligibility.
With Adams, again, multi-years of eligibility. I think if you rank left tackles in the league, probably not in the top half, but he wasn't, I would say, in the bottom 3 or 4. Like middle of the pack tackle, but
room to grow.
Ascending, right? Like he's got room to develop. So he would be a guy I think you have to be excited about if you can close on him. He's one to watch, Nick, and there's some other names I think people should watch out for. Carius Kern, who kind of stepped in, I think, after Adams got hurt. He's expected to be one of the top transfers available. Cohen Eccles from Houston started for LSU last year. Joe Price, really deeply connected in Houston. He's one to watch. And then I would point out Jake Renfro. Keep an eye on this guy. Center at Wisconsin. He's played every year for Luke Fickell. He's getting a 6th year next year due to a season-ending injury. He's been a quality starting center, both in the American and the Big Ten. I would keep an eye on him. And then Connor Stroh, a massive left guard, 6'7", 341 pounds. Was a starter at Texas. It didn't necessarily go well. It was his first season starting. I think he got banged up in the middle of the year and they never put him back in, but he's got multiple years of eligibility remaining. He's a guy I think to watch. So they're going to have some options here. And just building this board, I think there's some options they could be in on, guys they could get with multiple years of eligibility, which can help you a ton building it out long term, which is what last year they rebuilt it, but they did it with a lot of one and dones.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be in the same situation where you need 5 new starters next year.
Correct. Let's go to the other side of the line of scrimmage, defensive line, where this is another it's kind of under – it's not at the top of everybody's priority list, but Kentucky's had stout defensive line play for, I don't know, 6-7 years. Amar Stewart's done a really good job with that unit. And it's one of those two like it that we don't always see the huge high school recruiting wins, but you sprinkle in a couple with some plug-and-play portal guys who are impressive. Mike Humphrey Grace, right? Hearing about him returning. We have not yet. That would be significant. And it would also, to take some money out of the portal budget, right? They're going to have to get some players. I would think if you get him, Gadsden, you've got a pretty
Gerard
solid.
Smith.
Yeah. Gerard Smith, that's a nice start. But finding interior defensive linemen, that's always a challenge. And if you get into a squeeze like we saw in that spring portal period a few years back, like they can cost a pretty penny. So if you can find the right piece, it can go a long way to help on the D line.
Right, absolutely. I don't think this is going to be the biggest need for them, but it's definitely a position where they probably need to address it in some form or fashion, specifically with Bateman running kind of a more traditional 4-down front where you're going to have 4-3 defensive ends. One thing I'm interested in, Nick, is just where are they at with kind of nose tackles, and then like Jamarian Harkless and D'Amico Kennedy, who played at Douglas. Yeah. Both played at Purdue and both had some bright moments, multiple years of eligibility. They're both available. Like, is there going to be any interest in maybe bringing one of them back?
Yeah.
And bringing them in as kind of your rotation player.
Right. And then the other part too is, can those guys fit as a shade or a one? Do they have to be a nose? Like how rigid are they? Because let's face it, 3-4 odd and even. I think it matters more for the defensive end types, whereas Kentucky actually had a lot of guys I think who fit this style of defense on their roster last year. The hard edge setting guys who could play 4-3, hand in the dirt, 3-point stance, and go. So I'm not as concerned up front, particularly too because at the edge spot, even though you lost Souls, Sam Green was playing great football for you when he suffered that injury. If you think that he's going to be able to rehab in time for the start of the season, you have him. Lorenzo Callan flashed late in the process. You don't have it's not like a year ago where you have to completely rebuild the room.
Well, Green and CJ Works.
Yeah, Works too. I forgot about that. Which
can be 4-3 defensive ends.
Yeah.
So that's just adding more players to your kind of defensive line room, right? So I think it's going to be – they're going to address it in some form or fashion. To me, it's kind of hard to handicap it at this point, just what they're going to be looking for.
Yes.
But I don't think they're going to be in – like David Gusto was one of the top defensive tackles last year.
Yeah.
And they paid big money to get him. I don't think you're going to see that with this year's group, but I do think they're going to try to address the defensive line. Mainly just get some depth in there. But I think it's been really important for them, Nick, to keep Tavian Gatson, to keep Mike Humphrey Grace, to keep Gerard Smith on the roster.
Yeah, because those guys are good. They played good football. I want to say that Gadsden and I believe Gadsden was top 5 in pressures among all defensive linemen in the SEC last year. He had a great year. And even I think had to miss a game or two, but it was a nice breakthrough 2025 for Gadsden. Oh man, I'm already starting to, I almost said 2024 because we're changing the calendar, the new year. This part of the year, it can always get confusing. Let's not get confused any longer. Let's go to linebacker, which is clearly a position of need for this Kentucky defense. Grant Godfrey is really the only guy with significant experience returning.
Yeah, it starts and ends there.
Yeah. So you got to get some guys. There's no doubt about it. And there are 2 familiar names that people need to know. One of which, his brother was pretty good here. Trevin Wallace's younger brother, Tavian, he has entered the transfer portal after redshirting a year at Arkansas. He was a blue-chip guy who always showed a fondness for Kentucky, and I think if Mike Stoops wasn't here, if there was a different linebackers coach, he would have came to Kentucky, but instead started his career at Arkansas. He's out there in the portal. In addition to Tavian Wallace, there's also a name that it's going to go viral whenever he commits to his next school, ESPN. Gideon ESPN Lamprin. That is on his birth certificate, folks. The ESPN is on his birth certificate. That's not just a nickname. It's his real name. He had a ton of tackles last year. He's going to be one of the bigger names in the transfer portal. And if you're going to spend money, I would think you could spend big money on a guy like Mr. ESPN. Either when we're talking about defense, you would think it would be on a guy like ESPN or on a cornerback.
Yeah. I think linebacker, number 1, Kentucky, they just got to recruit and develop and implement players better at that position. It's just
develop. Yeah.
It's been lacking.
Can't believe the Mike Stoops experiment didn't work after not coaching linebackers for 25 years.
So they're entering the market, but there's options here. Like I felt from the Kentucky angle, after I did kind of dove into players, I felt better about it because I think there are some quality guys available. Specifically, there's some big kind of thumper linebackers that I think if they zoned in on, they could get. A lot of them are kind of lower level transfers. Ray Coney from Tulsa, Chris Jones, Southern Miss, Kayvon Sherman, Toledo. You mentioned Tavian Wallace. Robert Woodyard Jr. had a huge year for Auburn. Is in the portal.
Oh, he's the son of Robert Woodyard.
I would assume so. Yes.
Not Wesley Woodyard. No,
Yeah.
can we confirm kinship or not? I know people wanted Wesley Woodyard to coach Kentucky's linebackers. Always love when that happens. Always love when that happens.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be some options, and there's a lot of, I would say, kind of guys looking to level up. So if you evaluate it right, you should be good. But I do think they need Godfrey to be a starter. You know, I thought he played some promising football in November. One, you know, the end of the season got away from Kentucky fast, but one of the best signs was that he looked like, okay, you can start him, rather than needing to pay 2 linebackers to come in and start out of the portal.
Yeah.
But it's a position, Nick, I think you probably need to double dip there.
Yeah. And there will probably be a lot of attrition.
You don't have it. Yeah.
Too, because they recruited a bunch of great athletes who maybe hadn't played a lot of it. I mean, I think 2 of those guys in the 23 class played edge, and they were trying to turn them into linebackers. Did it work or not? I don't know. I would doubt it.
Something to point out, ESPN Lamprey went to the same high school as CJ Conrad.
Oh, shout out Keystone.
I know there's been some scuttle about the tight end.
I don't think that's going to happen, though. It would be nice, but I don't think it's going to happen.
If it did happen, that's something to keep in mind, I would say.
Let's go to cornerback, because this is the position that I think has the potential to have the most volatility, and also it has the most uncertainty. Just from what do they think of these guys on the roster? Because on paper, I mean, Stoops said it out loud multiple times. Cornerback was going to be a position of strength for Kentucky in 2025, and then they all got hurt. I mean, DJ Waller's hamstring put him on the shelf for all year. He ends up redshirting. Teron Nichols plays well, but then he probably plays too much, gets overexposed, and then he gets injured. What do they think of those guys, right?
Kevis Thomas is, they couldn't really play him.
Yeah. You get down to Nasir Addison, you don't want to burn his red shirt.
You were essentially down your top. You essentially were down your top 3 cornerbacks. Or 3 of your top 4.
Yeah.
For reasons unexpected. Waller, hamstring injury lingers. Nichols hurts his shoulder, I believe.
That's my guess. I don't know.
And basically has to miss half the season.
Yeah.
And then Thomas is there. You try to play him. It does not go well, so you just couldn't play any of them.
Couldn't put him on the field.
So, and then you try to play Nasir Addison, and, he redshirts. They've got 9 scholarship players in the cornerback room. How do they feel about these guys? And like Braxton Urquhart, junior college transfers there.
Well, the other part too, we know that Stoops had that type, right? He wanted all those big zone-eating corners, and I think they've made it pretty clear that they're going to be playing significantly more man-to-man down the road. So what does that mean?
To me, Nick, this is the position splurge. This is where we're splurging.
Okay.
This is where we're splurging. We've got to be better at corner in this conference. I think part of Kentucky's problems over the last couple of years has been their lack of coverage ability just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Even when they had Max Harrison and Andrew Phillips here, they weren't covering like NFL guys for a lot of their time here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They've just got to get better at covering. And so for me, I think this is a position to potentially splurge at, find some guys you like and go get them. I think corner, there's some interesting guys here. There's some fun kind of group of 6 transfers, and Jaheim Johnson at Tulane, and then Jaquez White at Troy. And then there's some guys out here. Jabril Rawls has been mentioned, both of Auburn's cornerbacks, Daniel Harris at Georgia. There's some options here at corner.
Yeah. We'll see if Kentucky will be big spenders or not. That's where I feel like there will be the most keep your head on a swivel, right? Just head on your swivel season. We'll certainly have ours screwed on tight, but not too tight. We'll have our ears low. We'll be sharing plenty of updates on KS board. There probably will be some activity at safety. Looks like Kentucky's going to need a new punter.
Safety, again, you've got Ty Bryant locked and loaded. Then you've got Cam Dooley and Martellus Carter, who I think are interesting.
Yeah.
entering next year. But
Dylan Williams dabbled a little, but he was a true freshman too.
I haven't really been able to do a total deep dive and kind of like Bateman's scheme. But from what the kind of data tells me and what I've seen kind of looking at rosters is that they want to play essentially 3 safeties. And even that nickel is more of a safety type.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to need more. They got 5 scholarship safeties. Like that's a position, again, the double dip. I think you could see it. Jordan Castell was a 3-year starter at Florida when Jay Bateman was there. Sharif Denson was Florida's starting nickel for the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
He was there when Bateman was there. Miguel Mitchell was at Florida when Bateman was there and then moved to Arkansas and just was coming off a career year where he had 52 tackles and played nearly 500 snaps. So, like, I think they're going to be in the market here at safety. And so that's a position I expect them to address because you've got Cam Dooley. You've got Martellus Carter, potentially Dylan Williams, but
maybe you lump in
just
Quay
need more.
Scott.
Yeah, you just need more bodies. Yeah, maybe move Q Scott out there, but you just need, I think, more bodies there. So that's going to be, I think, a position to watch closely here as we move forward.
So come on, walk in with us. 50% off annual subscription on KSR Plus right now. Sign up, join the ride. It's going to be a wild ride. We're not hiding everything behind the paywall too. When we find out visitors, that will become public knowledge. But the sort of, hey, watch out for this guy, we'll be letting you know back there. We'll also be, I'm glad that it's at least waiting until the day after the college football playoff to open because I'm fired up to watch these football games. We got some bowl games happening. Hell, Tennessee's getting ready to kick off against Illinois. And, man, I would love to see the Volunteers lose. It would be great.
I don't think that's going to happen against that Illinois pass defense.
I don't think it's going to either, but it'd be great to have Bielema have back-to-back years of beating teams I hate in bowl games. I don't think that's going to happen though. But tomorrow, college football playoff and a bunch of bowl games beforehand. Michigan, Texas could be fun. Did you see the picture of Bryce Underwood with Arch Manning on that roller coaster ride at that cheap little amusement park?
I did not.
It was just somebody said, how much money is in this one picture? I mean, my God. But so we've got some good games, but Ohio State 9.5-point favorites over Miami on BetMGM. I'm fired up to be fired away on BetMGM. If you aren't on BetMGM, what are you doing? Come on, download that app. Make sure you are playing with BetMGM throughout bowl season. My BetMGM account is looking pretty because I'm using their different bonuses, their bonus tokens that they're throwing out all the time. And the other part, too, is when you sign up with BetMGM and you use the code ON3, you're going to get a first bet offer up to $1,500. So download the BetMGM app, use bonus code ON3. Your first bet, if it doesn't win, however big that bet is, you're going to get it back in bonus bets at BetMGM. Bowl season, it's a great time to cash in, make some money while the silly football games are happening in the middle of the day. Do it with BetMGM. Make bowl season legendary. Make this a legendary college football playoff with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. That first bet offers for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Look, I don't have a future on Ohio State, but I just think they're the best team in the country. And how's Miami going to score points against this Ohio State defense when they couldn't score against A&M, a team that got stuck in shootouts all year long? If I'm looking at anything here, it is this Miami team total, which right now, where is it at? Where is it right now? I can't find the team total. I'm sorry. I apologize. was trying to find it. 16 and a half is the team total for Miami. I would like it better if it was 17 and a half, but still, like I don't know how Miami's going to score against Ohio State.
I would play it. That Miami game, that A&M game was weird. Like, how many field goals do they miss too? Like,
they missed 2, A&M missed 2.
You just make the field goals. It's a little different, but yeah, I think that's fair. To me, Nick, I do worry about Ohio State, and I would worry about Oregon from that factor too. Just when your coordinators or like, I wasn't surprised that A&M looked like crap after Colin Klein took the Kansas State job.
Yeah.
Like, the offense probably played their worst game of the year. I wasn't necessarily surprised by that. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Oregon, they didn't look great. I mean, the offense had that fast start, but they weren't sharp at all
in the second half.
They've been. So for Ohio State, you've got the thing where Ryan Day's getting out in front of it. He's like, nope.
I'm calling plays. Sorry, Brian Hartline.
What does that kind of look like? And so with Miami, I think they've got a chance here. I'm not picking them to win, but I would be a little worried if I was holding Ohio State national title ticket. Just how do they kind of manage?
Yeah,
all that.
The total in the Oregon Texas Tech game is 51.5. We talked about it on the KS board, and I think many fans want to see. They're on the opposite end of our spectrum. They either want Will Stein to score a bunch of points against Texas Tech and a loss, which won't happen. If Oregon scores 28 points, they're winning this football game, in my opinion. But a lot of people they want Stein to be a national championship winner, right? They want the next Kentucky head coach to be a national champion. I'm one of those who I just want him in Lexington. And part of the reason why I would say the sooner the better is because even if Oregon beats Texas Tech, I don't think they've been national championship good all year. I think they're a good college football playoff team that could maybe rattle off a couple of wins, maybe get to the Final Four. But they've never felt national championship good to me. And hell, part of that's because they didn't win their big games, right? And they kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch with all those receivers out. Now, maybe it's different that they have those guys. I know some of them played against JMU, but I don't think Oregon's championship good, and they're about to play the best defense in college football, in my opinion. I mean, I know Texas Tech probably not as battle tested as some of the others. You might argue that Oklahoma had it before the Alabama game, but this defense is the real freaking deal, man. They will put you in a blender, and it's not just that they're suffocating, man. They create so many turnovers. I mean, the BYU game, Texas Tech's best offense was their defense against BYU. It was insane. So this is going to be a tough task for Will Stein, and that total of 51.5 feels awfully high for me.
Yeah, that does feel high. One interesting thing, Texas Tech's run game stinks. So, like, if Oregon can make them one-dimensional, I think they could potentially have the advantage here. But you would worry about, I think, turnovers with the game. And it's going to be a game for, I think, Stein's offense where you're not going to need probably 30 points to win the game.
No.
You're going to need to win a 24-17 type game. So it's just, punting is not necessarily a bad thing. Don't do anything bad that lets the momentum flip the other way. But this is a really fascinating matchup, Nick, because I think both of these teams are very even. Do I think these teams are on Ohio State's level? No, but I do think both these teams could probably beat Indiana on a neutral field. So, I think this national championship is just a little odd because I don't think Ohio State is a legit awesome team, but Indiana keeps beating teams, which I don't think they're like that level, but they keep doing it. So you got to tip your cap to them.
Georgia.
I don't think Georgia's on that level.
Yeah, but the way they're playing though.
I still don't.
Okay. Doubt Kirby Smart at your own peril.
I just don't see it. But then I say that, but I don't think it's like this super great year. One thing Georgia does have going for them is they do have, I think, the coaching continuity and none of the distractions.
Yeah.
That some of these other teams, I think, are dealing with. Like even Indiana, they had none of the old like Signetti and all this extra attention they're getting. They're kind of flying under the radar
as the number one
here.
team, which I just love the favorites in those last two games. I feel like Indiana might just beat the piss out of Alabama. Like, I mean, we might go alt line minus 13.5.
Yeah, which is why like Georgia Ohio State could be the game of the playoff there in the semifinals.
Yeah, that feels like the national champion. That feels like the de facto national championship. But yeah,
but I do like out this spot for Alabama.
Really?
Yeah. Kalen DeBoer's awesome in these games. They get to play the little old Alabama card, and they get to play it for 2 weeks. Little old Alabama going into the Rose Bowl to play big, bad Indiana. And again, Indiana's played on some big stages with Signetti. This is the biggest.
For sure.
They're
they
playing
get the roses on their helmets, and yeah.
You know, and that for Big Ten teams, specifically like the traditional Big Ten teams, that is.
Yeah. As big as it gets. Yeah.
And here comes, it's the team with the numbers on their helmets. Just get them out of the way. We're waltzing to a national title. I love this spot for Alabama. And DeBoer is awesome in these games. So Alabama money line will be on the card.
Oh, okay. Well, we're on opposite ends of that one. I will give Alabama credit. That was a very fun game between Alabama and Oklahoma. Especially very fun if you had Alabama money line down 17-0 to come back like that. That game swung when Mateer's pass was dropped. Was it dropped or was it a bad pass? I can't even remember now. He's rolling out, guys wide open.
It was. I thought it was a difficult pass and not the easiest catch. He's a running back out in the route.
Mm-hmm.
Mateer's kind of rolling, throws it. He didn't make the best throw, but I don't think it was an easy throw. I just think that was kind of a tough play.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, the game didn't flip there. The game flips when Mateer throws a pick six.
No, that too.
You know, on the squatting corner. That's where it changed, in my opinion. Because at 17-10, you're fine. Honestly, if they probably kneel it out and go into half, they might win the game. That's the game that changed. That's what changed it to me, because I think it was like, even in the building, I was like, oh, no, we're going to lose.
Well, and then they brought up 50 Cent. Many said the game was changed. It's changed then. We shout out to the chat for informing us that there are reports now Javian Campbell is entering the portal. I liked him. He was I liked his
recruiting win for the last staff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his announcement. They brought ice cream to it. That was fun. He was one of those that kind of blew up out of nowhere because he didn't play football. He played basketball. And then during basketball season, he lost a bunch of weight. So this year they worked on putting on a bunch of weight. And so there was some development that needed to happen. And, I could understand why that both sides are ready to move on after 1 year. But shout out to the Western Hills product. I believe Wandale showed up to his announcement. So
he did. He was there.
He lands on his feet. Wandale, shortest player in NFL history with a 1,000-yard season. 5'8", out there getting 1,000 yards with fired Brian Daboll. And the Giants, man, I love the NFL deja vu that we have right now. Back-to-back seasons, the 2-17 Giants win in 2-16. 2-15, I should say. 2-15 Giants win in week 17 to lose the number one pick. Back-to-back years that happens. And then back-to-back years where Sam Darnold is going into week 18 with a chance to win and be the number one overall seed in the NFC or lose and be the number 7 seed in the NFC. So some NFL deja vu going on. Should be a lot of fun. I hope that in between all the transfer portal madness, we'll be able to watch some of this action. We at least get the college football playoff games under our belt on New Year's Day before the madness begins on January 2nd. We'll have plenty more announcements to come. Luckett, are you going to be portaling from the Sunshine State, or are you heading back?
I'll be portaling until Saturday. We're driving back late Saturday afternoon into the wee hours on Sunday morning.
I'm sure it's brisk down there. I mean,
today it was. I played golf in 40-degree weather today.
You should. I hope you brought your parka.
Doug was bundled up. I was feeling great. Like this, I was like, this
Football
is the
weather.
best.
Yeah.
This is golf weather. This is. I told my wife, I said, if it's like 10 degrees warmer, it would be like this would be my dream golf weather. Just enough for like the quarter zip.
Yeah.
Good thing Florida, there's not leaves everywhere. Sometimes when you golf at home, you gotta worry about the leaves everywhere. Specifically the course we're playing on, this links course. So I enjoyed it very much so. Especially once you get out there after you hit, you get after the first 2 holes, you just get
you're warmed up. Juices are flowing.
It was nice. Had a good time.
Yeah, I had been holed up in my office bunker for 2 days, and I stepped outside for the first time yesterday since the temperature change. And, you see it, it's like, oh, it's in the 30s. It's not that bad. No, the wind chill was 19. It was very cold.
Yeah, so, wasn't it like 20-mile-an-hour winds or something?
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely brutal. So, yeah, probably should have taken on the Christmas decorations from outside when it was 70.
You should have got the clubs out and just did some pitch practice in the front yard.
Oh, all right, Lucky. Well, enjoy your final few days in Florida. Let's win some money gambling with BetMGM, and hopefully we'll watch Will Stein put together an awesome roster in the transfer portal. We'll probably be back a couple of times next week when the chaos starts. We're always not too far away from our microphones on the KSR YouTube channel. We appreciate you all following along on 11 Personnel. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.